next thing I'm going to show you is an arpeggio. So, you guys know what arpeggio is? The term arpeggio means broken chord. That's the terminology. And so you probably play arpeggios all the time if you play, you know. That's an arpeggio. But the way that we think about it is more as a single note line. So all you're doing with an arpeggio is playing 1, 3, 5, and if we're adding the 7th, 1, 3, 5, 7. So you're skipping every other note in the scale. So for instance, you're going. If we go back to E, we're skipping the F sharp, we're going to G, so we're going. Right. And the arpeggio is as important or more important than the scale because the arpeggio gives you the chord tones. This is what I was saying, how I think about chords and scales as one and the same. Because those 4 tones, well, let's take the first 3 tones, the triad. And the triad is really important to understand. And there's a lot of information in here about triads. So in E, I'm playing E, G sharp, B. If I put those together in a chord form, what are we doing? That's an E triad. And that's how that's a really good place to start learning. This is an example of the harmonized triads working up the neck. So I'm just taking, all this is I'm taking a major scale and I'm adding those intervals. First with a third. And then I'm adding the 5th. Yes? She was asking what would a minor scale be. So there are a couple of different minor scales. And the sequence, the thing that you always have constant with a minor scale is the third is flatted, okay? So if we were doing that same sequence, working on the E string going up, and instead of playing whole step, half step, your third is flatted. So we would be going whole step, half step. And you can hear right there, that's the minor sound. As opposed to, we often call the major scale sort of the happy scale, the bright and happy. It's just. Whereas the minor scale is a darker quality to it, and I like adding the low pedal tone just to get that sound. I mean, you can hear it right there, and that's the sound of E minor right there. Now, some minor scales have what's called a natural 6. Most minor scales have a flatted 7th. So same thing, if we went whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, that's your flatted 7th. And then you have your... So let's talk about modes for a minute. So because this is important in jazz and all kinds of music. All of this information is going to help you no matter if you're playing country or you're playing rock or blues. All this information, is going to help you. Even if you don't care about playing jazz tunes, it's going to help you overall in your playing. So let's go back to that what I call the 2/6 major scale. Let's do 1 octave for now. So we're going to 8th fret, 2nd finger, right. Yep. In the dark ages of European music, we had what were called Gregorian chants, and that's how music stayed alive during the dark ages, during the plague and all this kind of stuff. Was the monks? I mean, they're the ones that basically kept music going. That was the only music, and they created the modes, and that's why they had these Greek names. But so for our purposes, we're gonna start with the first major scale. So this is called Ionian, and you can memorize these names eventually. It's all Greek to me. So okay, so that's your Ionian scale. That's your major scale. And this pattern, once you learn this pattern, you can play this anywhere. Just be aware of whatever your starting point is. Okay. You'll hear the term cycle of 4th, cycle of 5th sometimes. in ways of practicing music. And what it is it's a way of going around all 12 keys. Okay, there are 12 chromatic tones, 12 keys. So just for instance, real quickly, if you were going to go a fourth from C, what's a fourth from C? Anybody? F, right. So if I was going to practice, if I said practice your major scale through the cycle of fourth, which is a really good thing to do, because it gets you playing the scale 12 times around. You'd play C, and then you'd go to F. What's a fourth from F?
It's B flat.
You got it.
C.
B flat. You're the teacher.
Oh yeah, B flat.
Yeah. So B flat, and so on. You would go through all the fourths, and you can start just by finding a fourth on your low E. Say C. Okay. C E F. F A B flat. And this is where knowing your key signatures comes in also. And that's in here. You can find that online. But anyway, that's a good way to practice. Let's go back to the C major. So now we're going to talk modes. So this is called Ionian, your major scale. Now, let's start on the second degree with your pinky. So we're staying in the same position. You're basically playing a C major scale, but we're going to go D to D. So you're going to go, so I'll name out the fingering instead of the notes. So you're going to go 4, next string 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. You can stop there. Let's try that again. Go back down to your D on your E string, pinky. Everybody there, pinky? Okay, pinky. 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. Right. So you hear the difference between the major and this. This is a minor scale. This is called Dorian. If you're following the notes, you're still playing a C major scale. You're still playing all natural notes. There's no sharps or flats. But because we're starting on the second degree of C major, it changes the sequence. And this is what I was talking about. So you got whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Make sense? Yep. So if I play the arpeggio for that, which is 1, 3, 5, 7, it's every other note. So I'm playing D, F, A, C. So fingering wise, it's 4, 2, 1, 4. So that's your Dorian. Let's go to the next one, which is also a minor scale. So now we're in the same position, off of our 8th fret, major scale. Just keep reviewing that major scale. Make sure you got that down. So now let's play from your first finger on the A string. Everybody got the E on the A string? Right. So now again, we're playing all natural notes. We're going to go E to E. So you're going 1, 2, half step, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. That's the sound of Phrygian. That is also a minor scale, but because it has a flatted second, it has a very distinct quality to it. So the Phrygian scale has a really unique quality with that flatted second, and it's very prominent in flamenco music. Can everybody play an E chord? Okay. Slide that up 1/2 step. That's the sound of Phrygian. Go back to E. Another half step. Now, that's the first chord progression I ever learned. My guitar teacher taught me an E chord, and he said, "Okay, move it all up a half step." Now you're playing flamenco. When in the 60s when I was learning this, there was a popular Spanish tune called Malagueña, and it was like. So that's the sound of Phrygian, and you could do this. You could do all of this up here in the first position. If you're uncomfortable playing down here, if you know all your natural notes in the first position, and this is something that again you can't neglect, but you can do this all in the first position. So if I said play a Phrygian scale in the first position, you start on your open E and you go E, F, G, A, B. Play C. So you should be able to do all of this in the first position. I'm assuming, you know, that you probably know some of this already. That's why I'm moving you up here, because it kind of gives you a jump start. Let's go to the next mode. Let's go back to C in our 8th position. Okay. Now, we're going to start on the A string, 2nd finger. So that's our F note. So now we're on the 4th degree. We're on the 4th scale degree. And that is called Lydian. And Lydian is major, but what happens when you go through the sequence is it has a raised 4th, and it gives it a distinctive sound. So now we're going to go F to F. So everybody play F, then 4, whole step, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Right, listen to me play for 1 second. So that's the difference right there, is it has that raised 4th. Can you guys play a C chord for me? Let's just comp like just 4 of the bar on C, and I'm going to play a couple of Lydian scales so you hear them. So this is F Lydian over C. Now I'm going to play C Lydian. Keep playing. First I'm going to play C major. That's C major. Now I'm raising the 4th. Hear that sound? That's an F sharp over C. Compare this to this. That's the sound of Lydian, and it's a major scale with a raised 4th. This one's easy to come up with. Any scale, any major scale, all you have to do is raise the 4th, if you're even in the first position. And a lot of players of all styles like the Lydian better than the major scale. Because once you're playing the major scale all the time, it kind of just sounds pedantic. You get used to that sound. But you throw in that raised 4th, which in classical music, it would be considered an avoid note. Okay, they like to avoid that note. But in jazz and blues and rock and roll, that's actually a very acceptable sound. If you put that into a chord, let's play your C major again. Now, use your first finger, just lift it up off the B and put it on the F sharp on the E string. So now we have the major 7th, and we have a sharp 11 here. And hanging on that note, accenting that note, really brings out the quality of the sound. Okay, so what I just did and what I just showed you is called a chord extension. And again, that's a little bit more advanced harmony. But that's how we start getting into creating different colors and tonalities in chords, is by taking a simple like that. You know, if you guys know just a straight F major triad chord, it could be a bar chord. Now, if you play a bar, lift your first finger up off the B string. Try that and get that B natural to ring. Hear that? That's also F Lydian. So you have a B natural within the F. I love that chord. It's kind of dark and mysterious, and it just sounds great. So the Lydian scale is a great one to get under your fingers because it's only one note different than the major scale. Okay? Let's go on to the fifth degree. Fifth degree is really important, especially in blues. Fifth degree is called Mixolydian. So we had Lydian as the fourth, Mixolydian. So going back to our form here, going back to C on the 8th fret, okay? Now we're going to start with our pinky on the G. G on the A string. So I'm on the 10th fret with my pinky on the A string. Okay? So now we're going to go G to G. So we're going to go 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2. Right. Let's try it again. So 4, G, 1,